A multiplication, that's the name of the game. And each generation, they play the same. Now there was
Bobby Darin, thanks for introducing this video, singing about multiplication. Hey, if I'm good at what I'm doing today, you're going to be singing multiplication by the end of this video anyway. If you like that song, just rewind and go back to the beginning. This is Mr. Frank. We are starting Unit 2. Welcome to Unit 2, Multiplying Integers. So let's talk about this. We're going to talk about switching sides and dating. You ever think we talk about dating when we're talking about multiplication? Stay tuned. It's coming up. Let's start with switching sides. We got the switch method. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first factor. A factor is when we're multiplying two numbers, each is a factor. We'll take the first one, we'll put it on the number line, we'll see which side it's on, and if a number is positive, so let's say the first number we put on the number line is positive, all right? If the second number is also positive, we'll stay on the positive side. We'll stay on the same side. Now, if the first number is negative and the second number is positive, we'll still stay on the same side. It's all about, the switch is all about the second number. So you take the first number, you figure where it's at on the number line, and then if the second number is negative, you switch sides. Let's look at what this looks like, because I think it's easier if we actually take some examples. So if we have a -3, our first factor is negative. So we're going to be on the negative side of the number line, and we're going to multiply that by 2. Now the second number is positive. When the second number is positive, we stay on the same side of 0 on the number line, and we then multiply the numbers. So we're on the negative side because of -3. We multiply 3 times 2. We would end up with -6. Let's do another one where we start on the positive side of the number line because 2 is positive. The second number is negative. What do we do when it's negative? The second number is negative. We jump to the other side of the negative line, so now of the number line. So now we know this is going to be negative. So 2 times 3 is 6, but we know it's negative, so it's going to be -6. All right, let's check out the 4 scenarios you can have with the switch method. You can have positive times a positive, positive times a negative, negative times a positive, and negative times a negative. Those are the only 4 things you can have. So let's start at the top. Positive times a positive. So look, the first number tells us we're going to be on the positive side of the number line. The second number tells us we're going to stay on the same side. So we're going to stay positive. That's our answer. The second scenario, we're going to start on the positive side of the number line again because the first number is positive. But now the second number is negative. So when it's a negative number, when the second number is a negative number, we switch sides. So now we know our answer is going to be negative. And on the third scenario, we start on the negative side of the number line because the first number is negative. The second number is positive, so we're going to stay on the same side, so our answer is going to be negative. And in the fourth scenario, we start on the negative side, but then we have to switch sides because the second number is negative. So when we switch sides, we're going to end up with a positive. So those are our 4 scenarios summarized here, right here. So positive times a positive is a positive. Negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a negative is a negative, and negative times a positive is a negative. I'm going to ask you some questions about this in Edpuzzle, so hopefully you get those right. If not, come back to this slide and check it out. All right, so hopefully you did well with those questions. So now I just want to tell you a couple of rules and give a couple of examples. All right. Now, let's look back here for a second. Did you notice this? When the signs were the same, positive times a positive is a positive. And when the signs are the same, negative times a negative is also going to end up with a positive when you multiply them. So that's our first rule. The product of 2 integers with the same sign is positive. And check out these examples. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 positive numbers equal a positive number when you multiply them. I have -3 times -4. When I multiply 2 negative numbers, they have the same sign, I get a positive number. So then we get the next rule. The product of 2 integers with different signs is negative. And here I've got 2 examples where I have a positive number and a negative number. 4 times negative 2, that's going to be negative 8 because one of them has a negative number. And here, negative 3 times 4, I know my answer is going to be negative because these are different signs. And 3 times 4 is 12. So those are our rules. We're going to get some practice here. Negative 2 times 10. So what rule is this? This is a negative times a positive is a negative. So I know my answer is going to be negative. So negative 2 times 10, I know it's going to be a negative. 2 times 10 is 20. I get negative 20. Now notice here, I don't have an X for a multiplication sign, or sometimes we might use a dot. If you don't have an X or a dot, if you just have parentheses, that means multiplication. That might be new for some of you, or it might be a reminder. So let's go to the second one. We've got negative 8 times negative 3. They have the same sign. Negative times a negative. That's going to be a positive. And 8 times 3 is 24. So that's going to be positive 24. I've got 3 numbers on this one. Whew! So let's just break it down. Let's do the first 2 together, and then we'll worry about the negative 2. So I've got a positive times a negative. So I know when I multiply these 2 numbers, it's going to be a negative, just for those 2. And 4 times negative 5 would be negative 20. And then I'm just going to bring down my negative 2. Now, look at this. I've got a negative times a negative. Those are the same signs. We could follow the same sign rule. Negative times a negative is a positive. And 2 times 20 is going to be 40. So that's going to be my answer, 40. Hey, check it out. I just gave you the rules down here. All right, so you might have to slide. If you're answering the questions in that puzzle, when you're answering, you might need to just slide. If you want to come back to this from the questions, you can just slide the screen down. So I want you to do 4 and 5 on your own in Edpuzzle, and then we'll come back see how you did. All right, I hope you did well here. If you didn't get it right, then maybe go back and watch the last slide or 2. So on number 4, you should have gotten negative 36. And on number 5, let's check out number 5 here. 5 squared is really the same as negative 5 times negative 5. When you have an exponent, that's called an exponent. This is called a power. You take the base number and you multiply it by the number of times the exponent is shown. So this would be negative 5 times negative 5. It's a negative times a negative. That's going to be a positive. And 5 times 5 is 25. So hopefully you got those right. If not, do a little rewinding and make sure you get those. All right, now we're going to talk about dating. I told you we'd talk about dating. I hope you're not too uncomfortable. Are these two going to be a match? I don't know. Well, let's see what multiplication tells us about them. So the rules of dating for multiplication. If 2 people are dating, if they're both positive people, they go out on a date, they're both going to be happy, they're going to be delightful, they're going to be laughing. When 2 positive people go on a date, they're going to have a good time. Because a positive times and a positive person, they're both looking for the same thing. They're going to have a really good time. Now, if 2 negative people go out on a date, they're both likely they're going to complain a little bit. Hey, the weather, it's too cold, it's raining. They're going to, just have a negative atmosphere. But you know what? They like that. They like complaining. So a negative person and a negative person, they're both going to complain about things, but they like that atmosphere, so they're actually going to have a good time, right? So a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, because if 2 negative people go on a date, they actually can have a good time. But if a positive person goes out with a negative person, oh my goodness, this positive person is looking to laugh and be happy and smell the flowers, and this person just wants to complain. They are not going to have a good time, so that's going to be a negative. So if you forget the switch method, think about the dating rules of multiplication, and you'll be all set. And I hope when you're dating, you find the right match. So on your own, I want you to do these. Now remember, when you have 3 factors, do 2 first, and then do the third one. So do them in sets of 2 to get those. So you'll do these on your own. You'll bring the answers back to class. So do them in Edpuzzle and write them in your notebook as well. All right, hope you did okay with those. Please, before you leave, one answer, at least one answer for each. I learned or was reminded of. And questions I have are, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in school.
A multiplication, that's the name of the game. And each generation, they play the same. Now there was